I've said before that my early exposure to Star Wars games was on the PC, and while that's true, there wasn't a lot of variety in what I played. I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of avenues for income, which meant waiting for birthdays or Christmas and hope some kind soul bought me a game. It was to be expected that I missed the release of Rebel Assault in '93. I wasn't even aware of its existence until 1997 when I stumbled across it on holiday to the US, contained in the LucasArts Archives Volume 2 collection, which also included TIE Fighter Collector CD-ROM, Dark Forces, Rebel Assault 2, and a behind the scenes of the special editions called Making Magic. Being a persuasive child, meaning I begged and pleaded until they gave in, I convinced my parents to buy it for me. When we finally got back home, I was able to play those games and enjoy them in all their splendour. So sit back and relax as I revisit Rebel Assault in this episode of Star Wars Playtime. Here's the thing, I don't remember a lot about Rebel Assault. I remember it sort of being a flight simmy type game, but it was very much on rails, and you were a passenger in this game. Can't even remember much about the levels in this game. I vaguely remember there being an attack on a Star Destroyer, but if you asked me what the plot of this game was, I got no clue, no idea. The only thing that I really remember of it came from some research that I did last year for PAX 2020 when I did a Star Wars History of Video Games panel with my good friend Chris Inglis. The main thing I remember is that Rebel Assault was a pretty below average game, so there's not a lot of expectations here. I still have my copy of Rebel Assault from the LucasArts Archive Volume 2 collection, and I've got DOSBox on my computer, which is a DOS emulator to help me run the game. Let's get into it. Rebel Assault is a loose retelling of A New Hope, but instead of following the exploits of Luke, Han and Leia, you step into the shoes of Rookie One. Starting off with some basic training, you then head to the planet Kolodor for advanced training at a rebel base. Soon the base is attacked and you have to fend off a Star Destroyer. During the course of the game, you participate in the Battle of Hoth, which happens before the Battle of Yavin for some reason. Then journey to Yavin 4 for some more training before launching an attack on the Death Star and saving the galaxy. It really bugs me that we have the Battle of Hoth before the Battle of Yavin. Return of the Jedi had been out for 6 years at this point, and Empire Strikes Back for 10, so they can't use the "we didn't know what happened in the movies" excuse. You'd think they'd be able to get the timeline straight, don't you? The game is just as much on rails as I remember. I like some freedom and manoeuvrability, so forcing me to follow a track is not my idea of fun. Unless I'm playing Star Wars Racer. But it got worse in places, particularly in the Hoth cave levels. I was just going forward thinking that I needed to kill everything, but I kept seeing the same terrain over and over again, and no amount of melted probe droids seemed to move me forward. Eventually I realised that the level was a giant picker path and I had to find the correct route through all these caves to get out. But it took me so long to realise that, as there was no indication that I had to suddenly choose the right path, and up until this point in time the level would just constantly loop on itself until I'd killed all the things that I needed. The game had trained me to do one thing and then expected me to know to do something else, and that just seemed weird to me. The controls are sloppy too. Rather than be controlled by a keyboard or mouse, you need to have a joystick. Every time you let go of the joystick or neutral it, the targeting indicator returns to the centre of the screen, and trying to make slight adjustments to aim better when you don't actually control where you're going is a nightmare. Mouse controls would have made this game infinitely more playable. Even on easy, the controls made me die a lot. I ended up enabling cheats so I could at least get a feel for what the levels and gameplay were like. The only saving grace this game has is its graphics. For '93, these graphics look great. The cutscenes look crisp for its time, and with what looks like real actors having been filmed and converted into digital images. Even during gameplay, it looks great, but that's more down to the fact that the game is on rails and very scripted. There's not much processing power going the way of gameplay, so the visuals can look great. I did like how the game gave you the option to choose either male or female character, with fully voiced lines, not something you saw a lot in early 90s games. Rebel Assault tries hard to deliver a cinematic experience, but does so at the expense of gameplay. I'm not a fan of this game, but I can see what it was trying to accomplish. X-Wing had only come out a year before Rebel Assault, and compared to Rebel Assault, X-Wing looks rubbish. And that's not a dig at X-Wing, that's just the different approaches that these two games took. Rebel Assault tried to create that Star Wars feel by making it look like you were in a movie, and hoping that if you felt like that you were in a Star Wars movie, people would forgive its shortcomings. That said, if I had to pick between X-Wing and Rebel Assault for which one had aged better, Rebel Assault would get my pick. It's still playable, even if the gameplay is not that much fun, and the graphics still look good. With all that in mind, I give Rebel Assault my Star Wars playtime rating of Return to Tatooine.
Alright, well, I guess we're just going to have to play without the, without saving, which is going to be fun. Because what I remember of this game is that it's reasonably hard. Box/CD ROMs/Rebel 1. Mount CD DOSBox. So running Assault will run the game. Okay. Cool, and you have to have a joystick for this. So we're going to calibrate. Bottom right. And enter. Oh yeah, the old LucasArts logo. I do love me some LucasArts.